On our third wedding anniversary, Ethan suddenly told me, "You should get an IUD." I suddenly realized something was wrong. Late that night, I found a chat log on his phone. Ethan was coaxing the woman on the other end. "I'll make her get an IUD when I get back. Lily, only you can bear my child." My eyes turned cold, and I confronted him directly. He snatched the phone from me, his eyes blazing with anger. I scoffed. "Either cut ties with her, or I'll expose everything about Lily." His expression stiffened for a moment. After a struggle, he deleted and blocked Lily. "Are you happy now?" Yet, the next day at the alumni gathering, in front of thousands of people, he took Lily's hand and danced a waltz publicly, kissing her passionately on the dance floor. Instantly, all eyes, full of mockery and derision, turned to me. I called Alex, giving him a word-for-word command. "Increase the leverage on Sterling, within 48 hours. I want him completely ruined." Inside the ballroom, Ethan walked past me in front of everyone, taking Lily's hand and heading towards the center of the hall. As he brushed past me, he sneered, "Samantha, I hate it when people threaten me." Lily, following him, also lifted her chin at me, letting out a haughty sniff that clearly showed her triumph. I laughed, a bitter, angry sound, and stood my ground, watching him dig his own grave. Ethan took the microphone and declared his love for Lily in front of thousands. "To love someone is to be with them openly and honestly. Lily, you are where my heart truly belongs." They embraced and kissed, dancing gracefully to the music. Everyone watched me, stifling their laughter. How utterly humiliating, to be publicly scorned by your own husband. If it were me, I'd want to jump off a building. Ha! Back then she flaunted her family's wealth and influence, looking down on all of us. Now, hasn't her man been stolen by another woman? But isn't Ethan working for the Vance? Isn't he afraid? The group has also become successful in recent years, so he's not afraid anymore. I stood under the spotlight, my expression indifferent, not giving them the breakdown they so eagerly anticipated. I stomped on a speaker system, shattering it, and walked away amidst their astonished gazes. Sitting in the Bentley, I suddenly noticed a small charm hanging in front of me. It was a plush toy Ethan had given me on our first wedding anniversary. It was originally a set of mother and child dolls. There was supposed to be a smaller one. Throughout our years of marriage, I had mentioned wanting a child more than once, but always found excuses to put it off. I understood that he wasn't ready yet, and despite my disappointment, I stopped pressuring him. I just never imagined that it wasn't that he didn't want children, but that he didn't want children with me. He even wanted me to get an IUD just to prevent me from getting pregnant. How ridiculous and ironic. What was worse, this Lily was precisely the junior from his department whom he had personally recruited to intern at the Vance. My gaze turned icy, brewing a storm. He actually dared to use my money to support another woman. After being discovered that day, Ethan didn't immediately explain or beg for my forgiveness. Instead, he pulled the trembling Lily into his arms and glared at me. "You're making too big a deal out of this. It's just getting an IUD. I hired Lily because her family was poor and she was capable. Do you have no compassion at all?" Lily's tears streamed down her face. "Samantha, please don't blame Ethan." I begged him to do it. "You know my family is poor, but we truly love each other. If you have to blame someone, blame me." Hearing this, Ethan felt deeply for her, almost to the point of breaking. I crossed my arms, my gaze as cold as ancient ice. "Of course I'll blame you. From this moment on, you're fired. Who do you think your brother Ethan is? Does he have the power to protect you?" Both their faces turned paler than the others. Finally, coerced by my threat, Ethan apologized to Lily and cut off contact with her. And yet, here he was, giving me such a grand surprise today. At that moment, Alex handed me a tablet, speaking respectfully. "Sterling has recently invested all its capital in futures. As per your instructions, we're taking the opposing position in Sterling's futures. If they go long, we go short. If they go short, we go long. In just 1 hour, they've already lost 4 million. I scoffed lightly. That amount wasn't even enough to cover my emotional distress for the evening. "Continue. Within 48 hours. I want Sterling bankrupt, with its stock plummeting to its lowest limit." "Understood." Alex's phone rang at that moment. He glanced at me. "Chairman." "It's Chairman." I gave it a dismissive glance, filled with disdain. "Tell him I will make Sterling lose 4 million in 1 hour, 8 million in 2 hours, and so on." Sterling won't last 48 hours before its stock crashes. If he wants me to stop, he needs to personally bring Ethan to me and beg for mercy on his knees. I leaned back in the leather seats, and cars on the road seemed to give way to us. Amidst the endless traffic, I felt like I saw Ethan saving me all those years ago. Back then, we were classmates in the finance department. At a party, I was almost hit and killed by a drunk truck driver. Ethan had suddenly tackled me to the ground, preventing me from being crushed by the truck. Over the years, I couldn't say I loved him deeply. It was more gratitude. But, since he dared to scheme against me, to use my money to support another woman, since he chose another woman and betrayed me, he would have to pay the price. He needed to pay for it, every single bit, even if it meant spitting blood. I had to make him understand that without me, Ethan was nothing but a useless failure. 2 hours later, Alex sent a report. Losses have reached 16 million. Continue. The next second, Ethan's name flashed on the screen, and the heart emoji right after his name now seemed utterly sarcastic and ridiculous. The moment I answered, his furious voice burst through. Samantha, was that you? Do you know how much Sterling has lost because of you? I order you to stop right now. Otherwise, don't blame me if I never come back to you. I raised an eyebrow and let out a soft, scornful laugh. Still daring to boast? If so, then let's continue. Ethan paused, clearly not expecting me to be unaffected by his threat, and grew even angrier. Aren't you just mad that I chose Lily? Aren't you just jealous? Fine. I promise I'll spend 2 days a week with you from now on. All right? Just stop this. He spoke as if granting a great favor, certain I would back down. Silence returned to the office, and I curved my lips into a faint smile. It was also my fault for being too good to him all these years, making him forget who had given him everything. Had it been a peaceful divorce, I would never have been so ruthless. But he, of all people, had no idea how high the sky was or how deep the earth ran. I then summoned Alex. Increase the leverage again. Double group's hourly losses. By tomorrow's market opening, I want to see Sterling's stock hit its lowest limit. Alex quickly nodded. Understood, Chairman. I'll get right on it. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, slowly swirling the wineglass in my hand. I wanted to see just how stubborn he truly was. Just then, Arthur called. I hung up immediately, doing so 10 times, finding a perverse pleasure in it. It wasn't until 2 hours later, Sterling's losses soared to 120 million. Ethan called, his voice heavy with fatigue. There was a noisy commotion on his end, clearly an emergency shareholders meeting. Samantha, let's talk. Can you please stop this for now? In 4 hours, Sterling has already lost 1/10 of its value. Samantha, do you really have to go this far? We've been married for years. Do you have no regard for our past at all? Regard for our past? When he was using my money to support another woman, humiliating me in public like an idiot, why didn't he talk about regard for our past? I laughed derisively, full of contempt. I told you, if you want me to stop, come and kneel to apologize in person. His breath hitched for a moment. Kneel, you say? I'll kneel. I hung up, a flicker of suspicion in my eyes. Giving up so easily, something wasn't right. I rested in my office overnight and was woken early the next morning by Alex's urgent knocking. He was holding security footage, his expression grim. MS. Samantha. Ethan brought a crowd of reporters downstairs to the company. He's just kneeling there, saying nothing. I reached for the tablet and let out a scoff. He was kneeling, yet he managed to position himself perfectly on the soft entrance rug. A smirk played on my lips, fueled by a surge of excitement. He wants to play, does he? Then let's play properly. Daring to threaten me. He's truly overestimating himself. Alex stood beside me, frowning deeply, and handed over his phone. Chairman, the trending topics have exploded. Everyone is saying you. He paused, struggling to voice it. That you're acting out of spite because you couldn't keep your man. I clicked the link. Ethan's personal social media post displayed a photo and a message. If this can make you show mercy, then I will grant your wish. The accompanying image was a photo of slit wrists in a bathroom, along with a depression diagnosis certificate issued by a top-tier hospital. The comments section immediately erupted. Holy hell! Is this Samantha a demon? To push someone this far? She's just angry because she couldn't have him. A clingy woman like that. Forget her husband. I wouldn't want her even if she was free. Rich people like this just enjoy tormenting others for fun. Boycott anything and everything from Vance. My eyes slowly froze over, carrying a bone-chilling coldness. The next second, those accounts were banned across the entire platform. I refreshed the page, my guard immediately rising. Alex noticed it too, his face full of confusion. PR said we haven't even made a move yet. I sneered. He's trying to incite public outrage against me. Sure enough, after a brief silence, netizens' condemnation grew even louder. Then, several official brand websites under the Vance were bombarded. Even the live streaming channels were forced to shut down. Clever move, I said, looking at the surveillance system, my eyes as cold as frost. Let's see what kind of show you're putting on. When I reached the first floor, all the paid media reporters swarmed me. If it weren't for my bodyguards holding them back, I would have been completely overwhelmed. Chairman, is everything you've done true? Did you really push your husband to attempt suicide by slitting his wrists? Did you use Sterling to threaten Ethan, forcing him to kneel here and beg for mercy, devoid of all dignity? In your eyes, is human life truly insignificant? Chairman, please answer our questions directly. The crowd seemed to be in a frenzy, desperate to shove their microphones down my throat. Just then, Ethan's Lily screamed and rushed forward, kneeling straight in front of me and repeatedly bowing her head. Samantha, I beg you, please let Ethan go, and let me go too. As she spoke, she took off her jacket, revealing a body covered in scars. The crowd gasped, growing even angrier, but she continued speaking as if to herself. You tore us apart back then, and now that we've reunited, why do you still cling to him? Do you really have to drive us to our deaths and destroy Sterling before you're satisfied? In just a few sentences, she had practically pitted me against the common people. What they hated most were capitalists who disregarded the law and the dignity of ordinary people. And now, I was being painted as a cold-blooded capitalist. Public opinion intensified rapidly. Netizens' anger flared, and I faced widespread condemnation. Lily lowered her head, secretly curving her lips into a smirk. After speaking, she knelt and moved to Ethan's side, clasping her hands tightly with his, like a pair of lovers determined to live or die together. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot, and he looked utterly dejected. Samantha, I was wrong. I shouldn't have gone to Eastwood University. Then I wouldn't have met you. My whole life has been a mistake. Samantha, please, let me go, and let the Sterling go. Over the years, you've driven me to attempt suicide at least 10 times. What do you want from me to be satisfied? Can I just prostrate myself before you? Then he looked at me with a look of utter despair, a sight that would make anyone's hatred for me deepen. I stood with my arms crossed, my face full of scorn and disdain. Why stop now? Kneel. The man's face stiffened. He was just threatening me, forcing me to concede. How could he actually prostrate himself in public, amidst everyone's surprised glances? I stepped forward. I reached out, lifted his chin, and looked at him with utter contempt. Ethan, you've provoked me. You want to play? I'll play with you. Vance's bodyguards quickly dispersed the crowd. The reporters, having taken Ethan's money, within half an hour. News headlines about Vance chairman disregarding human life and defying the law appeared everywhere. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Vance's stock steadily fall since the market opened, I felt indifferent. I was more interested in whether the Sterling had been crushed yet. Chairman, Alex pushed open the door and handed me a report. From midnight last night until now, in 6 hours, with our increased leverage, Sterling has lost a total of $6.4 billion. Sterling is almost gone. Also, their stock hit its lowest limit when the market opened this morning. But, he hesitated, our stock has also been falling, and the board of directors is about to hold a meeting. I waved my hand dismissively. I'll be there in a bit. Online, Vance and my personal social media posts had been bombarded. There were millions of abusive comments. Some people even came forward, claiming to be Vance employees. They alleged that I was inhumane at the company, demanding 18-hour workdays or termination. More and more condemnations poured in, as if to completely bring me down. 15 minutes later, I headed to the conference room, but Ethan intercepted me halfway. In his hand, he was leading a triumphant Lily. The man stepped forward, his eyes full of provocation. Look at you, Samantha, insisting on making such a scene. I told you, you can't win against me. He raised his phone. Sterling's stock is starting to recover, while Vance's stock has been plummeting. Why bother? He paused, as if being magnanimous. For the sake of our marriage, As long as you can make up sterling 6.4 billion deficit within a week, I can help you control public opinion. I'm sure you don't want the Vance to collapse under your watch, do you? Listening to his threats, I stared at him for a few seconds, deliberately curving my lips. Control public opinion? So, you're saying all the attacks Vance is facing right now were orchestrated by you? Ethan reveled in the feeling of having me in the palm of his hand. It made him feel like he was the superior one between us. He then started to speak carelessly. Of course, those gullible masses online are the easiest to manipulate. All it takes is a sob story. He pressed his lips together, stopping abruptly. After all that, what's your choice? I leaned in closer and spoke softly. I choose to destroy you. Ethan's body stiffened, and his face instantly darkened. Fine, since you refuse to see reason. Don't blame me. Then he turned and walked towards the board meeting room. To quell public opinion, the board meeting was being live-streamed in its entirety. Ethan knew this too, and he walked in a step ahead of me. He tearfully addressed the cameras. Thank you, netizens, for speaking up for me, and I were married, and I don't want things to escalate like this. This morning, I approached her with the intention of reconciliation, but she still said she would destroy me, and that no one could stop her. She also said that if I weren't around, she would find someone to kill Lily, even though Lily is just a young girl who did nothing wrong, except love me. Now, I can't take it anymore. Starting last night, just because I didn't dance with her, she crushed sterling, causing it to lose over 6 billion overnight, almost driving me to death. Even my almost 70-year-old father, she's forcing him to kneel and apologize in person. The entire conference room fell silent, and in the live stream, comments flooded in faster and faster, as if wanting to flay me alive to vent their anger. Is there no law left? At Grand City Police Department, in the eyes of these capitalists, ordinary people's lives are insignificant. They truly love each other, and just for one dance, they're being retaliated against by this awful woman. Is there no justice? From now on, I will no longer buy any products from Vance. Boycott! The public outcry grew louder, and at the same time, it drew intense attention from the police. The time had come. I lowered my eyes, let out a soft scoff, and slowly stepped forward. I projected the evidence I had already investigated onto the screen for everyone to see, then curved my lips into a smile at a dumbfounded Ethan. Now, it's my turn. His face froze for a moment. He didn't understand what I meant. Some board members watched the stock continuously drop, their faces growing increasingly grim, but they bit their tongues out of politeness. I activated the projector. One by one, it detailed every instance of my financial support for Ethan and the sterling throughout our marriage. Finally, everyone's gaze fell on the red figures on the bill. Total, 7.93 billion renminbi. Everyone was momentarily silenced, and even the live stream comments shifted from angry curses to a flood of question marks. Guess I'm just poor to give away over 7 billion like that? What's even funnier, did you notice that all Ethan ever gave Samantha was one worn plush toy? How embarrassing. I'll stay neutral. You netizens change faces faster than I can keep up. Ethan's hands, hanging by his sides, gradually whitened. On closer inspection, they were even trembling slightly. He stared at me, unblinking, utterly disbelieving. As a man, he was now in the most awkward situation imaginable. I didn't give him a chance to speak, turning instead to face the board members whose expressions were unclear. My voice grew firmer, infused with a chilling tone that brooked no argument. Gentlemen, the Vance has seen its share of ups and downs over the years. Many of you experienced times when it hit rock bottom under my father's leadership. I ask you now, what was the ultimate outcome? One of the veteran board members spoke thoughtfully. A rebound from the bottom. Each time, it propelled the Vance to greater heights. The others were somewhat speechless. I tapped the table with one hand, a rhythm that struck a chord in some of their hearts, and straightened my back. So, for the Vance, this current crisis is nothing significant. Ethan, ignored and disdained on the side, flushed crimson, clenching his fists tightly. He also secretly signaled a few people below. The next second, Mark, the director of Human, suddenly spoke up, standing and glaring at me. Chairman, with all due respect, what do these things prove? They merely show that Ethan didn't spend money on you in this marriage. But the Vance's current crisis is that you disregard the law and treat human lives as insignificant. I looked up, sneering at him. He was someone I had personally recruited into the company, no less. Truly, the quiet ones are often the ones that bite. Disregard for the law? Which law have I disregarded? Treating human lives as insignificant? Who, pray tell, have I killed? Mark choked, his mouth moving, but no words came out. His face instantly flushed with embarrassment. I looked at him and said coldly, "Within 3 days, you will receive a letter from my lawyers. Just wait." You, Chairman, quite the display of power. At this, another person spoke up, standing to confront me. "If you're going to fire Mark, the director of Human, why don't you fire me, the director of the project department, too?" Immediately, cries of protest erupted from below. How important the project department is. It absolutely cannot lose its director. I narrowed my eyes at him, glancing at Ethan beside me. This man was Ethan's uncle. Ethan had suggested he come to Vance to learn, and I had agreed. But now he had grown arrogant, completely out of touch with reality. However, how could I possibly leave the Vance's project department in the hands of an outsider? "Uncle," I sneered, full of derision. "What do you think you are? That the Vance can't function without you?" He jutted out his neck, looking utterly confident. "Of course, the projects under my charge are the lifeline of the entire Vance." I suddenly lowered my head and laughed, a sound that made everyone exchange bewildered glances, and inexplicably caused Ethan and Uncle's hearts to pound with unease. "Lifeline? Then let me show you what a lifeline truly means." Then someone stepped forward, the nominal deputy of the project department. I displayed hundreds of project department initiatives before everyone, making Uncle's eyes widen abruptly. These projects. He had never even heard of them. "Samantha!" he exclaimed, his face contorted in fury. "You have such a terrifying mind." I curved my lips into a faint smile. "You are nothing but a figurehead director, yet you never even realized it all these years." Heh. He and Ethan exchanged glances, both seeing shock in the other's eyes. Ethan turned his head away, as if he had never known me. "You actually guarded against me at every turn." I cast a sidelong glance, full of mockery, and it turns out I was right too, didn't it? Ethan's face suddenly turned pale. He had a sinking feeling that today would not end as he expected. Seeing this, everyone quickly made their stance clear. "I trust Chairman. The group only has one chairman." "Me too." "And me." 2/3 of the shareholders raised their hands. The remaining third looked at Ethan, somewhat at a loss. I glanced at them, a faint smile playing on my lips. "Very well. For the rest of you, I have something to show you. Then you can decide." I then gave Alex a look. He nodded and stepped forward. He began distributing documents, one by one. At first, the others were dismissive, but when they opened the documents, their eyes suddenly widened, and their pupils contracted. Several exchanged glances and snapped their documents shut, and immediately raised their hands. "We also support Chairman." Seeing this, Ethan stood up in disbelief, his body shaking violently. "You all, what was wrong with these people? They had agreed to bring Samantha down together, and they'd already taken their benefits. How could they change their minds at the last minute? What exactly was in that document?" A chill slowly crept up Ethan's spine. It seemed he had never truly known the wife he had shared a bed with for 3 years. Watching everyone instantly switch sides, disdain and contempt flickered in my eyes. A bunch of useless fools, trying to contend with me. The document simply contained evidence of the commercial crimes I had uncovered, these people embezzling funds, accepting bribes, or tampering with projects without authorization. Every single piece of evidence was enough to make them rot in jail. Ethan took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the tremor in his heart. At this point, no one else on the entire floor objected, except for Uncle. Ethan steadied himself and walked towards me, still confident that he could bring me down. "Samantha, why make such a mess? Even if everyone supports you, the harm you've done to me is real, and your threats to Lily are also real. If you can admit your wrongdoing, or," he pursed his lips, revealing his true intention, "or hand over the Vance for me to manage, perhaps I can forgive you, and the public will forgive you too." I looked at him as if he were a clown performing antics. "Ethan, you think you can swallow the Vance? Don't choke yourself to death." "You!" Ethan abruptly fell silent, his face filled with indignation. I gave a cold laugh and said, "Forgive me? How about we let the public security authorities forgive you instead?" He didn't understand. His brows furrowed, but a sense of foreboding rose in his heart. I opened a file. It was an audio recording. "Ethan, Are you sure this plan will bring Samantha down? Will those netizens really attack the Vance as we expect? The man replied, of course. They're just a bunch of gullible masses. With a little online manipulation, they'll proudly take our side, believing they're righteous. Besides, sweetheart, you're pregnant. Don't worry. My gift as a father to my son will be the entire Vance. Before everyone could recover from their stunned surprise, I presented a second piece of evidence. Ethan's chat logs with the media and his bank statements. They showed that Ethan had transferred a total of 2 million RMB to Lakeview Group within 12 hours. And media was precisely the group that first slammed me. Ethan and Lily behind him instantly turned ashen, looking as if they might collapse at any moment. At this point, the internet audience completely exploded. Damn it! So, we were used as pawns? These two disgusting cheats, both of them married and getting pregnant, and they still won't let chairman divorce them? I said it then, but you told me to buzz off. Sorry to the previous commenter. You were right. These two are dead meat. I didn't give them a moment to breathe. Releasing yet another piece of evidence. Evidence that Ethan's wrist-slitting photo, depression, and Lily's scars were all nothing but special effects makeup. In the video, the makeup artist personally confessed, yes, they paid me 500,000 to fake the injuries. You can check the bank statements. Chairman, I apologize. With those words, the two were utterly nailed to the pillar of shame. The unprecedented fury of netizens also caused Sterling's stock to instantly plummet to its lowest limit. Ethan stared at me, his pupils trembling, a shiver running down his spine. You actually investigated all this behind my back. Samantha, you have such a terrifying mind. I crossed my arms, raising an eyebrow with cold sarcasm. Terrifying mind? You flatter me. I'm not even a tenth as cunning as you. Just then, police officers pushed open the door, holding a subpoena. Mr. Ethan, you are suspected of multiple charges including manipulating the stock market, manipulating public opinion, falsifying evidence, and committing commercial crimes. Please come with us now to cooperate with our investigation. Ethan watched the approaching police, completely panicking. He instinctively recoiled, looking at me. Samantha, save me. I can't go with them. We're husband and wife. You can't just stand there and watch them take me away. I looked at him with an indifferent gaze. Husband and wife? I laughed, full of extreme contempt. When you betrayed me and slept with another woman, why didn't you talk about us being husband and wife? When you conspired to frame me and tried to crush me with public opinion, why didn't you talk about us being husband and wife? I stepped forward and looked at him, enunciating each word. Ethan, this is what happens when you scheme against me. Ethan's body swayed. Since things had come to this, he simply threw caution to the wind. Samantha, fine. You're heartless and ruthless. So don't blame me. We're married, so I'm entitled to our shared marital assets. You can divorce me, but you need to give me my share of the stocks. You hold 51% of Vance's shares. You must give me 25% now. Otherwise, I'll see you in courtroom. I stared at him steadfastly. My father's actions back then were truly far-sighted. Perhaps he knew from the start that Ethan was no good, but he couldn't convince me at the time, so he had to make preparations in his own way. Before the wedding, he had arranged for a complete property notarization and declaration. I reached out to Alex, then slapped the proof onto Ethan's face. Ethan, you're deluding yourself if you think you'll get a single penny from me. He froze, then instinctively picked it up. The more he read, the paler and more shocked his face became. He stared at me, his pupils constricted, his voice hoarse and trembling violently. You and your father actually plotted against me even before we were married. Ethan broke down. He had believed that even if his plan failed, even if we divorced, he would still walk away with enough assets to support the Sterling. But reality had just delivered a resounding slap to his face. This doesn't count, he suddenly roared. This is a conspiracy. It has no legal effect. I turned away, letting out a cold scoff. Whether it does or not, you can discuss that with my lawyers. Online, the comments section unanimously switched allegiance. This is so satisfying to watch. Chairman is truly a role model for our generation. The scumbag even tried to scheme for marital assets after marriage. But his scheme backfired spectacularly. A man like this, faking suicide, faking depression, betraying his wife, he should rot in jail. Boycott group. Ethan kept trembling. With no further opportunity to speak, he was led away by the police, his expression dazed. out of the conference room. Meanwhile, a devastated Lily's legs gave out. Her eyes rolled back, and she completely fainted. She was quickly carried away by an ambulance. The farce concluded with my absolute victory. Back in my office, the exhaustion etched on my brow finally gave way. In the past few days, although I was 100% sure I could crush Ethan and the Sterling, the feeling of betrayal, however, still gnawed at my nerves. It made me feel that these past few years of marriage had truly been a complete and utter joke. Just then, Alex knocked on my office door. He walked in, holding an iPad. "Chairman, our stock has recovered, and it's expected to break its historical high when the market opens tomorrow. Additionally, several factories under Sterling have gone on full strike. They can't even pay salaries right now and are seeking bank loans." I let out a cold laugh. Unless the banks are insane, they wouldn't grant them a loan at a time like this. Alex nodded. "Yes, Ethan is currently under investigation at the police station, and Chairman is scrambling everywhere. Spread the word, anyone who helps Sterling is making an enemy of my Vance." "Understood. I'll get right on it." I closed my eyes. I hadn't wanted to be so ruthless, but some people always seem to seek their own destruction. Within an hour, my phone on the desk vibrated incessantly. Dozens of missed calls, all from Arthur. I watched them, waiting until the 100th call before slowly picking up. There was a pause on the other end. His initial burst of anger almost uncontrolled. Then his words became as flattering as possible. "Samantha, it's Dad." He paused, and a cold sneer formed in my heart. "I've understood everything. It's all Ethan's fault. Don't worry. When he gets back, I'll deal with him properly. But, you see, we are still family, after all, and Group is certainly in trouble right now. As an elder, I apologize to you, and I hope Samantha can help Sterling through this difficulty. Rest assured, once this is over, Ethan will definitely cut all ties with Lily. In my heart, you're the only daughter-in-law I acknowledge." I didn't speak. He waited for a long time, his breathing growing heavier and more anxious. "Chairman, you don't need to try and butter me up. I'll make this clear, I will absolutely crush Sterling. As for the marriage, Vance's legal team has already begun divorce proceedings. You can expect to receive a courtroom summons." "You!" he roared in anger, clearly not expecting me to be so unyielding. "Samantha," Arthur took a deep breath. "Do you really have to go this far? You called me Dad for 3 years. We were family, after all." My tone grew colder, filled with extreme mockery. "Family? No. Lily is your family. She's carrying the Sterling's heir. Remember? Since you're all family, you should share the good times and the bad. Enjoy these last good days." "Chairman, Samantha, Sam." Before he could erupt in anger again, I simply hung up the phone. Useless. 24 hours later, Ethan was released on bail. When he returned to his family home, his face was utterly dejected, showing none of his former glory. He saw Arthur, who was in a frantic state, tell him that if Sterling couldn't secure more investment and fill its financial holes, it would file for bankruptcy within a week. Ethan was terrified. Without waiting a second to rest, he rushed nonstop to his former friends, but he couldn't even get past their doors. "Damn it!" Ethan slammed his fist on the steering wheel. Those ungrateful animals. He had never imagined the consequences of this matter would be so severe. Late at night, as he dragged his exhausted body home, Lily also returned from the hospital. He looked at Lily, a surge of resentment suddenly rising in his heart. If it weren't for her seduction, how could I have lost control? How could I have inexplicably plotted against Samantha? How could things have ended up like this today? Lily seemed to ignore the emotions in his eyes, approaching tentatively, and acted coyly with him as she always did. "Ethan, are you okay? It's all Samantha's fault. That bitch. She showed absolutely no mercy." Arthur, standing nearby, closed his eyes, wishing he could kill his rebellious son right then and there. He furiously threw the financial report Alex had brought over at Ethan. "Sterling is ruined." His old face was flushed with anger. "I disagreed with that terrible idea of yours from the start. Now look what's happened. You've offended Samantha, and there isn't a single company in Grand City willing to help us. For one woman, you've brought Sterling to this state." The documents cut a gash on Ethan's face, and blood dripped down his cheek. It shouldn't have been like this. Who knew Samantha could be so ruthless? She had countless backup plans. Arthur closed his eyes again, panting with rage. "I told you from the beginning not to get tangled up with other women. But did you listen?" Hearing this, Lily's face paled as she retorted, Arthur, how can you say that? I'm carrying a descendant of the Sterling family. Arthur stared at her, then suddenly sneered, like a venomous snake, sending shivers down Lily's spine. A descendant of the Sterling family? He threw a paternity test report at Lily, his eyes filled with sinister malice. I had someone perform an amniocentesis on the baby while you were unconscious. Guess what the results are? The bastard in your womb has absolutely no connection to the Sterling family. Ethan spun around, his pupils trembling, and slowly lowered his gaze to her abdomen. What did you say? That's impossible. Lily instinctively shrieked in protest. She had only been intimate with Ethan. If it wasn't his, whose could it be? Suddenly, Lily remembered something. No, that wasn't right. One day she had too much to drink, and she had been with 3. Lily's face grew paler and paler, and suddenly she was struck hard across the face. Bitch, how dare you betray me? Ethan knew her well. Seeing her reaction, he knew the child couldn't be his. At this moment, his heart was filled with extreme regret. He kicked the woman on the floor viciously. Bitch, if it weren't for you, how could I have betrayed Samantha? Sterling wouldn't have ended up in this situation. It's all your fault, bitch. Ethan seemed to be venting all his resentment, punching and kicking Lily. Soon, a pool of blood appeared beneath her. Arthur was horrified and quickly ordered someone to take Lily to the hospital. If someone died, Arthur closed his eyes, his face full of despair, and slapped his once proud son hard across the face. Idiot! This is all you're doing. Now, go apologize to Samantha immediately. There might still be a chance to salvage things. Hearing this, Ethan stumbled out. Meanwhile, at Vance, I sat in my office as Alex handed me the security footage. Chairman, Ethan is here again, and he's kneeling again. I glanced at the screen and sneered. This time, at least, he wasn't kneeling on a plush carpet. From the security footage, Ethan's pleading, regretful voice kept echoing. Samantha, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I was utterly blinded and made a terrible mistake. I beg you, for the sake of our 7 years of acquaintance and our 3rd wedding anniversary, please forgive me this one time, and help the Sterling family one last time. Please. Samantha, please come out and see me. I truly know I've made a mistake. Ethan's disgraceful behavior was uploaded online, sparking another round of ridicule. Ha! I knew he was no good. Ethan watched as people around him pointed and whispered, his pride shattering, but he couldn't care less. Sterling was gone. What good was pride now? He absolutely refused to go back to living like a nobody. Thinking this, Ethan actually began to repeatedly bow his head to the ground. Samantha, I beg you, save Sterling. Forgive me this one time. I turned off the security footage. Find someone, use a baton and beat him senseless. Alex quickly nodded. In the end, when Ethan was beaten to the brink of death, Arthur arrived just in time to take him to the hospital. The next day, Sterling officially declared bankruptcy. The once glorious Sterling, in the end, was merely a facade of prosperity. Without my support, it was nothing more than scattered sand, easily crumbling. A week later, my divorce case with Ethan officially began in courtroom. Due to ample evidence of Ethan's infidelity and proof of asset notarization, Ethan would receive not a single penny after the divorce. A month later, Lily, who had lost her baby and was nearly beaten to death, sued Ethan in court. Alex told me they had a violent confrontation in the courtroom. They both seemed to want to kill each other. Lily, pressured by public opinion, was forced to drop out of school and disappeared without a trace. Ethan faced a joint lawsuit for multiple charges including stock market manipulation, public opinion manipulation, forging evidence, commercial crimes, and intentional assault. Ultimately sentenced to 20 years in prison, what faced would only be an endless stretch of imprisonment. Arthur aged 10 years overnight and collapsed in the courtroom from a stroke. I sighed. This is the price for betraying me. Then I smirked, raising an eyebrow as I scrolled through countless flattering text messages on my phone. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts about this story, feel free to share them in the comments section. Here is Roses and Love, sharing stories about marriage and women every day. See you tomorrow.